Good morning, Renan. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? One,
Yeah,
two.
yeah, we can. I can hear you, Renan. Good morning to you.
All the best, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Um,
How,
I can see you're touching a lot of people, so congratulations on that.
yeah, we are trying to bridge because it's a enormous potential to help organizations. It's
Yes.
not one company, two company, three company. It's thousands, not it's tens of thousands of companies. Okay, so
The
they need help.
opportunity, the
So
opportunity to serve is very big.
yeah, the opportunity is very big, and even actually the experts, real experts, I mean, like who have experience, are very limited. Okay,
Yeah.
it's very difficult for anybody to convince the mid-sized, smaller organizations
Yes, it is.
whose help they need it. So all what we can do is we can just create a platform, and you look at it instead of we recommend you, you choose. Okay, that way what happens is it will be their choice what to do.
Yes.
Okay, so what you and me, what we can do is we can just put them, cater them, and then it's up to them. Okay, it's a big market, big opportunity to
We
help
will
organize.
after we finish this, we'll talk next week. I will be doing some investments right now in automizing part of my assessment. So I was talking to both Alejandro and Laura. After that automatization happens, which will happen in the next 90 days, I'm sure that we will be able to use that as a door opener for a lot of the opportunities that we can do with you guys, at least on the planning cycle. So
Definitely.
I hope you guys really enjoy what I'm about to present. We can do this in 30 minutes or in 8 hours. So there's so much here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
hope you like it, sir.
Yeah, fantastic. So we have anyway 1 hour session. So you take your time.
Okay.
So anyway, let me introduce to the audience, ladies and gentlemen. I join me in inviting Renan Gonzalez. Uh, he's our close associated friend, mentor, expert, and you can call whatever. So Renan stands as a seasoned international management consultant, astute managing director, distinguished by an illustrious track record of leaving indelible positive impacts and legacies in organizations, fortunate to benefit from his expertise. Proficient in diverse array of disciplines, including strategy development, implementation, corporate governance, negotiation, business and financial planning, operations management, and entrepreneurial mentorship. Renan brings a wealth of multifaceted skills to every project and role he undertakes. And Renan is a seasoned sales guy. Okay, so he really tell you how to do a sales and how to sell everything, whatever you have, either it is a product, service, or as an individual, as an organization, or as a team. A fantastic expert in the overall, and he's associated with top companies in South America and the rest of the world. By the way, where are you now? Because you keep traveling across the globe, Renan.
Yes,
Okay,
sir. Good day, good evening, and good morning to all the audience. Currently, I'm sitting in Mexico City, sir.
perfect. So welcome, Renan. You can just take your time. We have 1 hour, so please feel free, and we leave some time maybe for questions and
Very good.
discussions.
Let's see if we can do something in 35, 40 minutes, and then we'll be open for various type of questions and discussions.
Perfect. Okay, sir.
Great.
Over to you,
Okay.
Renan.
Well, thank you, Abdul, and good day to everyone. Let me see if I can go and share here. Um, hmm. Let, I must be having some trouble to maximize the presentation here. But let me, before I get with the technical, the idea of this, let's call it conversation, and I'll see if we can have a good chat at the end. Successful strategy management in owner managed companies across the board usually hits a very good amount of I'll call it the economic power, which really we never look at it that way, as both of small and mid-sized enterprises and owner-managed companies are the engines of any country. And I mean it again, they're the economic engines of any country. They produce a lot of employment. They produce a lot of the services and goods that we utilize in our markets. And the best that we can do for any type of this, I'll use the word companies, I'll use the entrepreneurial journey view, I'll use the economic power behind all of this. I guess that as long as we are serving and bringing better practices to any country where owner managed companies are operating, whether it's first generation, second generation, third generation, usually they're going to have a family background. So as I was listening to Abdul and the last presentation, it is about delivering knowledge. It's about delivering services that assist, that add value to others. And if we have the ability to actually knock on the door and make a difference with the owner of this type of companies, whether again first generation, second generation, third generation, even fourth generation, the idea in such a complex world where we're involved more and more with more competitors, with a lot of innovation, with technology in use as we have not seen it in the past, I think that sometimes going back to basics is what can add value. So let me start with the presentation right now. Okay, so for some reason I'm not being able to
No, just yeah, yes. Can you continue? Can you use that?
I am trying to go into presentation mode, but for some reason I am not being able. One quick second, please.
Deep, if you are able to join us and guide.
Okay. So let's see. I'm going to stop sharing right now, and I'm going to go into the sharing part again.
Yes.
Okay.
So now when you choose the file that has to be shared, it has to be the one which is already in the presentation mode. It has to be already opened in the presentation mode, and you need to choose that one to be shared.
It should be in presentation mode, correct?
Yeah, even before you share it, it has to be in presentation.
Just put the presentation mode and select Alt tab. So you'll go to the control.
Yes,
And then
I'm in presentation mode, and we should be there again. 1 second, please. And okay, got it here. Let's go again. You should be able to see it, guys.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So let me start with something very basic. Successful strategy management for owner managed companies. I believe we'll have to have these three big elements in place always. Whether we're talking about owner managed companies that are very small, I'll use the word small, and I will not try to use the revenue number. I'll just try to use I'll use the number of people working in the company. Let's just use that as a segmentation concept. Whether they're small companies of 40, 50 people under, or mid-sized companies, depending on the market, whether they're somewhere between 50 and whatever, 400, 500 people. Mid-sized companies that are going into the bigger realm, depending again on the market, somewhere between 500 and 1,000, 2,000, and anything that we want to call big or very big, let's put it somewhere in the realm of 1,000, 2,000 to 5,000, and some big companies that are going to be 20, 30,000 and above. So yes, of course, if it's a family-owned company, an owner-managed company, it will need always the entrepreneurial spirit. I guess there needs to be always, and during the presentation, I will jump into what that spirit means. But of course, it needs, on the second bullet point, what I'm trying to indicate here, a long-term vision. And long-term, after having worked in so many countries, with so many companies, with so many people, some industries let you think long-term in probably concepts of 10, 7, 5 years. Some companies long-term, it's right now under 5 years. So at least that conversation has to be part of what the company is having. And I try to put the third topic, and that is a matter of the discussion of the whole presentation: disciplined execution. Disciplined execution of everything that has been printed out in a concept of a strategic plan. And if we don't want to use the word the strategic plan, let's just use the word into the plan. So the disciplined execution part, it's basic. So if there's something that needs to be seen from a 50,000 feet view of this presentation, let's always maintain the entrepreneurial spirit. We will need to discuss what long-term vision means for every company that's listening to either today or in the future to this presentation, and a disciplined execution of everything. I mean, everything that we have planned. So let's look at some key principles that can contribute for an effective strategy management on owner-managed companies. And let me just be very clear here. This can be for entrepreneurial projects that have probably less than 2-3 years. For companies that have been operating under I'll say 10 years, the 10-year market is very difficult for many family-owned companies. And when you're hitting somewhere between 15 and 20 years, 25, and you're thinking of going into the next step, into the next phase of the corporate governance view, and maybe thinking that it's time for the next generation, yeah, I think that this will also help. So let me start here with. I'm sure that we have seen this during the previous 8 hours of the summit. It's so important to have always clear vision and clear goals. Always, it's always said that the owner and is the one, or the family is the one that needs to bring a clear vision for the future of where the company is going. And in green letters, I place some words there that usually become so encompassed in the concept of where we're going. We call it direction, and most important, the purpose. I think that there's so much information out there, so much literature, so much philosophy that might indicate that direction and purpose will be given by a strong mission vision. But again, and I'm not putting it here, but I'm saying it, it has to be based on values. It has to be based on clear values. And everything that goes around values, as we might see over the past 20, 25 years, there have been some views of you can be in the right industry, in a very profitable industry. You might have good strategic plans, of course. Let's say that you have good advisors, or that has been planned of what you have been investing. But if the purpose is not based on a value-driven view and a value-driven model that will be set and communicated across the board with smart goals, whether they're specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, those values are what can push your company to the next level with a strong plan, or those values are what is not going to help your company go from point A to point B. Because as a leader, as an owner, you need to be part of those values. You need to let everyone see that those values are what you do on a daily basis. So let me place the clear vision and goals as something that needs to be articulated very well when anyone is doing their, I'll use the word again, the strategic plan, to provide direction and purpose. But that's not only from your view, it's from the view of everyone that works in the company. So this will be important to revisit every now and then. And that every now and then can be on a quarterly basis, as we will be talking in a few minutes. And again, this needs to be also articulated into talking and always explaining if what the strategic plan is growth, and I'm using this as an example. Well, this will have to be part of that growth. And this will surely maintain a long-term view of success for your business model. Um, on a second basis, I am placing regular strategy review. And I'm saying here that owners should regularly review and, if necessary, adjust the company's strategy in response to changes in the market, in the industry, and internal dynamics. Just with this slide, we could talk probably easy 1 hour. Why? Because depending on the market you are, whether your market is you're somewhere in your own town, in your own city, in your own country, or even you're thinking of going abroad, or if you're already abroad, trying to understand if one of the markets where you're operating is going one way and the other one is going the other way, depends on the economics, it depends on politics. So there's a lot of responsibility that an owner needs to have, and I'll use the word with hopefully good advisors, to understand what the market is and where it's going. Um, the industry, oh my God. If we look at, let's just go into Wikipedia and look at the biggest industries today in the world, we're going to have probably 10, 15 industries. But if we double click that concept, we're going to have industries and sub-industries and sub-industries. So we need to try to have a very clear view of where our industry and our market views and changes are. On the last presentation, we heard that we need to always to be wary about change. And this implies not only external change, it also implies what's happening in our internal dynamics of our own company. So those internal dynamics are part of the culture, they are part of actually what we plan that should be happening in the culture of our company, and then actually to have some clarity and understanding if that culture is exactly what we expected or not. Regarding how often should we try to ensure this alignment once a plan is done? Well, based on what we see on very big companies, well, at least we should do it on an annual basis, and depending on the size of the company and the size of the business and the stage where the business is right now, whether it's a young upstarting business or it's somewhere in the middle between 5, 10, 15 years, or it's already a big established business, well, sometimes it's good to have it on a quarterly basis. Based on what? Based on if we sense that our market, our industry, and our internal dynamics are changing. Are there some companies that do it every 2 months or every month? Well, the answer is yes, but I guess those meetings should be not necessarily ensure alignment with the plan, just trying to understand if the metrics we have in place, which we're going to be talking about them in a few minutes, are aligned to every day. Let me try to give you a view of some countries that are going through some hyper-economic changes very, very drastically. And the strategy probably not only needs to be reviewed, but also trying to understand where the market is bringing different type of forces. Let me use the example of Argentina, Venezuela, where you have impact in exchange rates almost changing on a daily basis. So there are some areas, some countries where you're managing products and services, where if you're part of that market, it doesn't matter the industry where you are. Your plans might be shifting on on a monthly basis. But aside from that, I would say if you're on a stable market, and that's what we're always trying to look for, stability, we can do it on a every 3 month basis or an annual basis. So those strategy reviews also need to have some structure, some clear structure, and some expected outcomes. Regarding involvement of key stakeholders, oh my God, this is so important because this usually touches, I will say, the strategic view of an owner managed company, whether the owner is just one individual or if it's I use a family. This has to do a lot with how humble. I'll use the word again, humble. I'll use the word again, humble. How humble is their philosophy to involve other people into the view of where the company is and where the company should be. This will impact managers and employees to give their feedback, and sometimes even customers and suppliers. This is something that happens with very big companies, usually with I'll say global companies or very big regional companies that they're used to having their process cycle aside from their key people, customers and suppliers. This is something that usually is not necessarily seen in the owner managed companies. Why is this so important? I think that diverse perspectives and valuable insights will come from every individual that is being discussed. And why else? This will help everyone that is involved in this process to buy into the strategy. This will down there. I place at the bottom of the slide diverse perspectives. It's so important to have diverse perspectives from different areas of the company. Of course, commercial, sales, marketing will have their own views, finance will have their own views, legal will have their own opinions. So the insights that each of these areas and individuals can provide is so important for the planning process. But again, and I'll use the term that's used a lot in the US, in the United States, there needs to be some humble pie to be dealt with, because this will open the door to a very effective planning process. This will open the door for effective open-ended communication by all the employees. So there are clearly processes that open the door for this type of involvement. I think that these processes need to be taken place into the heart and soul, not only of the planning cycle. Of course, it is clear that it needs to be part of the planning cycle, but it's also very important for this to be a pillar in the day-to-day activities of your company. So I think that the involvement of key stakeholders, and again, this matters a lot on the size and dimension of the company. But again, if we're going to be doing planning cycles with owner-managed companies on a yearly basis or every 2 years, this has to be part of what needs to be embedded in the process. Let me go on the fourth one, which indicates focus on core competencies. Of whose core competencies? Is our company's core competencies. This involves identifying what the company does best and leveraging those strengths to create a competitive advantage in the market. So this opens the door for candor communication with all the team, to try to understand what our strengths and capabilities are. Am I talking only about from a unique skill point of view? No, I guess that's part of it. But the rest are the real strengths that we see that we might have, whether it's in production areas, whether it is with our customer service, whether it is with our streamline operations, whether it is that we take one customer at a time and we develop a product and or service for them. So this has to go back to the mission and to the vision of what we think we want to do versus what we think we are doing and what we do well. So this is strengths and capabilities need to go down deep. There has to be a very strong discussion on the planning cycle here about what knowledge, if there's any, that differentiates us from any other competitor or that gives an edge to what we do on a daily basis. Unique skills, unique skills are impressive if we have unique skills in an area, and that will impact the whole business model. In the other example I place, there's proprietary technology. Is the business where we are, do we have technology that probably gives us a little bit of edge or makes a difference to the world, to the customers where we're working? And when I say to the world, it's not necessarily at a global view, it's necessarily to the world where we're actually focusing. So customer relationships, there are some companies that I will say their forte, their strengths are with customer relationships. So I believe that there's a big opportunity in, I would say, showing how these customer relationships are necessarily first developed, how you bring new customers, and how what those processes are to bring new customers into the company. And well, the first transaction is hard, of course, but maintaining the customer, maintaining that relationship, midterm and long term is basic for the health of the business. And if this is a strength, well, that's something that we need to leverage upon. And I'll say processes that actually have an impact on different areas of our business. If that's something that is a strength, I believe that can be efficient processes that when we're talking about, oh my God, managed owned companies where the owner is the one who's making the decision. Efficient processes can be in any area, from corporate governance to decision making views, and who has the opportunity to make decisions, assuming that is not only the owner. So I think that these core competencies are the baseline for value that is going to be created or has already been created, and for sustainable success. Again, when we're talking about sustainability and trying to have a long-term vision, this is something that needs to be dealt, as I said on the previous slide, with everyone within the company, and usually to have a very open line of communication with the leaders of the company. So strengths and capabilities is something that is easier said than actually have a good assessment from the internal team. And I think that usually once we have the ability to have 3 or 4 of these strengths well focused, there's a view of opportunities, how we can market it, how can we communicate it both internally and externally, and basically always trying to understand that this has to create a competitive advantage, and those competitive advantages will not necessarily be there for I'll say for years. Those competitive advantages need to be revisited every few months. So let me go to the next one. Risk management, and I am sure I've been talking about risk management over the last 10 years a lot. For companies that are managed by their owners, and I'll again say family-owned companies that probably are going from one generation to the other one, risk management changes as always as the size of the company changes. So owners need to assess any type of risks and try to manage risks effectively. The assessment part is the difficult one. Sometimes we're used to living with those risks on a daily basis that it's hard for us to assess them. So sometimes it's a good view if we try to bring in, I'll say, external input from an external assessment, and this should be part of the strategic planning process in ways where we understand how often we going to be evaluating or identifying these potential threats. These potential threats usually are easy to view, but sometimes we don't have a clue that they're a threat or that they're there, and we need to start learning and understanding how to create contingency actions, contingency plans, and sometimes this might happen in a very quick view. We need, and at the bottom of the slide, I placed four very simple concepts of potential risks, whether they're financial risks, and let me talk about what I've seen in many companies, how we're uh, collecting funds from our credit decisions. Do we have strong processes? Is that hitting our cash flow? And sometimes we're so embedded in day-to-day operations that there's some financial risk that might be putting pressure on our business model, operational, and whether we have assets. And I was listening to Abdul in the previous presentation saying that well, for companies that have a lot of investment in manufacturing, I'll say assets or any other type of assets, physical assets, well, it's good to have a clear view of how they're operating today and how will they be operating tomorrow. We have a clarity, a clear process, and I'll use just an example of maintenance, whether it's day-to-day maintenance, whether it is uh, periodical maintenance, or once everything goes up in flames, we have actually insurance. Have we done the correct investments that we needed to do? And usually it goes down to internal controls. Risk management usually has mitigation plans that should be aligned with internal controls. And beware, for everyone who has an entrepreneurial mind, that's something that we don't like to have. Internal controls, we think that, oh my God, that's just going to bring more paperwork and more burden to our day-to-day operations. So that's, I think, one good topic that we can discuss in much I would say detail, depending on the industry and the size of your business. But that should be part of day-to-day views. Are there going to be market risks? Of course, in a changing economy, in a changing marketplace. I would say the market risks that we can see today, probably we could not see them 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. So I think that's another issue. And legal risks, of course, depending on where we are, what industry, there's always the risk and compliance topics that need to be fully viewed as well as external. So risk management, again, this is another big chapter in owner managed companies that need to be taken into account, and need to be taken account not only, of course, I'm using this as an example on the strategic planning process, but this has to be also viewed on I would say the internal controls that are embedded in a company or that need to be improved and seen on I'll say on a periodical basis. Let me go into the next topic. Flexibility and adaptability. Very simple to say it, very difficult to implement. On previous presentations, we have heard, and of course, there's, I mean, tons and tons of information across the globe that tells us that we need to be adaptable to market changes and to industry changes, and they're always evolving. Is that true? Of course, that's true. Just look how we're communicating today in this type of virtual platforms. Um, Probably that was in place 10 years ago, but we didn't use it that much. Um, so where are we going in the next 10 years? And that doesn't really, that improves the volume of communication. The question is the communication improving? Have we adapted? Are we more flexible? Are we passing on our messages in a more quickly and a clearer way? So I think that once an organization has from the mentality of the owner that flexible and adaptable point of view, and that has been, I'll use the word, well communicated to the rest of the leadership. Whether the leader is in sales, you have leaders in sales and marketing, in operations, in finance, in area of the areas. Well, that flexibility and adaptability has to be part of the DNA of everyone in the company. Why? Because that will help us see today probably things that we were not sensing, measuring in the past. I place quick concepts at the bottom of the slide, and these are just some examples. Customer preferences. Oh my God, whether we're talking about if we're in the retail restaurant business, customer preferences, they'll tell you and every owner whether they're happy with necessarily prices, with the way we're being served, with the category of products that we're being delivered. Customer preferences change. And let's use the example of technology. This type of products, there are some companies that don't exist today that they were very strong in the marketplace 10, 15 years ago. So yes, customer preferences do change, and customer preferences change the marketplace. In some countries, uh, when we're looking at electric cars or at the first stage, second stage of market openings for electric cars, that means that if there's some owner managed companies that were doing, for example, auto parts for the normal auto industry, well, that is changing. If customer preferences start changing at a faster pace, well, there's some businesses that would need to transform and need to be flexible. Industry trends. That's the example I just gave with e-cars. Industry trends and market trends that changes the whole ballpark in 1 2 years. Always we need to have a view on what competitors are doing, face to face, line to line competitors. So that will bring pressure in innovation for us. Well, sometimes if part of what considers to be innovation is creating new product lines, well, we need to view that. But that means that sometimes innovation is, if we have a very big portfolio, well, let's try to bring some new products into the portfolio, and we have some products that are not necessarily shifting or going out to the market at the volume that we need them to go. Well, so sometimes we need to review our portfolio and take rough decisions to take some products out of the market. So that will impact our planning cycles. That will impact our day-to-day habits. And why not put some views on owner-managed companies that are sometimes habits that are done very, very, very often in very big companies? Scenario plannings. Do we have scenario plannings of that have been implemented in order to impact an impact in a change in the sales process based on industry trends, where we're going to be modifying a product or taking out a product from the business model? What will that happen? What happens if we are able to go into new markets in a more aggressive way? So we need to have those scenario plannings and performance data. Oh my God, for family-owned companies and for managed-owned companies that have been whether in place for 5, 10, 20, 30 years, performance data is basic to help us make decisions and to maintain our flexibility and ways that we can be adaptable to changes. So talking about this performance data, which we'll talk in 2 slides more about it, it has to be very, very, very clear of how often are we reviewing that performance data and what decisions we're taking. So again, this slide is one of those slides that we can talk for hours, and there must be so much data that can come out from it. But again, and I leave it so we can discuss probably in other opportunities. Please, if there's two or three views that we can leave out from this slide that we can say that are very important in this slide, try to have clarity in customer preferences. Let's look at the industry trends that is going in our market or in potential markets where we want to go, and let's have in place our performance data. If we are not having a keen eye on those three concepts, flexibility and adaptability from our leaders and from all of our departments will be in dire straits. So this is something very, very important. I'm checking on the time. I see that I'm already hitting probably the 40-minute mark. So I'll try to run with two more slides and then see if we can have some time for questions.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you very much. On communication and transparency. Oh, this is another slide where we could take easy 1 hour. Clear communication of a company's strategy. Again, and I'll put the word clear communication, being candor, and that communication, how it's communicated, and the objectives, how we bring them to the rest of the organization. And I place the word vital there. It's vital for ensuring alignment through the organization and encourage open dialogue to address any concerns or questions. And I think that is something that even in very big companies, sometimes that's an issue. It's simple to create a plan. It's simple. Of course, it takes a lot of work from everything that we have heard today. But open communication, not in an owner-managed company, it has not only to be from the owner to the leaders. That's step number one, and that's not necessarily easy. The leaders need to feel that they own that communication. They need to understand that they are part of that communication, and that needs to encourage employees, and that buying of the employees that will bring an alignment. I cannot say that once or twice or three times. That is so important. If that communication and transparency becomes the responsibility of the owner for his or her leaders to be part of that, that will encourage employees to go to the next level. That will help everyone stay informed. That will help everyone embrace the review of everything that has been placed on a strategic plan. How can we do that? Of course, I put some examples there: town hall meetings, channels for feedback. If the operation is more a virtual operation, there needs to be, again, it's very different how we ask questions and how we communicate if we're in a one single sites, or our operation happens in two sites. If very different if our operation is a virtual operation. But I guess that is what needs to encourage open dialogue. The view of having a candor culture from the top down, this will have a beautiful impact in all the business model. So communication, and at some point in a big company, we were discussing what should we be transparent in communicating, and I guess it's everything. It's everything that needs to be communicated, where it's about the vision and how we're doing with the vision, about the goals, about the reviews, of course, and that the communication will help us be very clear when we're doing something good and say, hey guys, we're going the right way, but we're failing into achieving our objectives. I think we need to be very clear about that. So always trying to be an effective leader is a part of the challenge of a daily activity. So I believe that there is so much that with this communication and transparency will also hit in a positive way the culture of a company if the communication is as open as everyone in the organization expects. And when I say everyone, it means everyone. And I'll just be very clear here. It doesn't matter if it's from the owner or the people reporting to the owner. If this was a bigger company, it would be a C-level type of communication. But it's at everyone, at whether you're working in operations in a warehouse, whether you're in finance, whether you're in sales. This communication and transparency has to be of every topic of every area. So I'll just start moving to the next slide. I'll try to run in the next 5 minutes with two more slides. Investment in talent and resources. And I am putting in bold black letters, attracting, developing, and developing the talent pool. Attracting talent is difficult, but developing the talent is, necessary to support the strategic plan of the company. Um, I think Abdul said in the previous presentation about whether it is an investment or whether it's an expense. Believe me, it doesn't matter if you're in Africa, you're in India, you're in Middle East, you're in America, you can be anywhere in the world. The ones who are actually going to help you change the way the company is going, or if the company is going the right way, is a pool of talent that works on day-to-day basis. So the strong foundation of this talent goes down to how we are hiring people, how our processes, is it clear, is it fast, is our, from an external point of view, are the compensation plans aggressive enough to bring that talent? Are we in an industry that talent enjoys to see that they can create a career? Are the new hires view within those first weeks the clarity of roles and responsibilities that they were told from the initial interviews? Down the road, if those employees are going the right way, do they see that the roles and responsibilities need to change, or were they there and they could see that career path down the road? The onboarding. Sometimes we think that onboarding means just bring the new team members, whether they're fresh out of college or they're fresh out from another job, and we just, hey, the way you're going to learn is we throw you into the swimming pool with the sharks and you need to swim. Yeah, of course, that I think that's a way to do it. But there's other ways where onboarding processes have been in place, and onboarding usually can take from 1 to 2 months. And those are the talent pools that will usually give an extra mile, an added value to the vision and to the implementation of the plans. Job satisfaction for owner managed companies. Job satisfaction sometimes is not necessarily measured, and this is something that needs to be measured. It's necessarily for the owner and the leaders of an organization to actually sense if the job requirements are necessarily aligned to the satisfaction of everyone who's doing a job. Whether you're at this level in the organization, whether you're a C-level executive in that organization or a strong manager, but you need to go down at every level of the organization. So job satisfaction is not for a few, it's for everyone. And that will open the door to actually see the current resource needs that the organization has for the strategic plan that we're doing today or that we're evaluating. But also, what are those resources, time bound, and I'll use the word investment bound, look in the following months. So this is, I'll say, this is one important slide that needs to be sensed by any owner and or family-owned company. How to attract talent and how to develop talent. and they will definitely help that organization be a sustainable organization. About the performance measurement and feedback, I'm sure that there must be so many advisors and consultants and philosophies around this. This needs to be, even today, where we're almost hitting 2025. There's some companies that are not necessarily tracking the right key indicators against metrics that need to be sensed on an effective way. And of course, I'm just putting there on green words very simple concepts of, hey, we're going to have metrics for sales, for marketing, for operations, for customer service, for finance, or for talent management. Well, let me give you a quick metric that today it's possible to have. I'm not saying it's simple, but probably 30 years ago, it was very difficult to have. Let me go into marketing, and let me go into digital marketing. Once we're opening the doors to see our lead generation, how our leads are coming into our pipeline, of course, we have always had marketing activities. Well, before we with traditional marketing, where we were posting and investing, whether it was in television, in print ads, in printed media, whether we were investing in POP material. Well, we would see what was actually working. But now that we have digital marketing, we can see what's actually not working and how that's being impacted. How we have a group of leads turning into MQLs and marketing qualified leads. And so now we can also sense, is that average the correct one? Why are we losing so many leads into MQLs? And how many MQLs, how many of those marketing qualified leads are turning into, I'll say, real quotation, sales qualified leads? So there's, aside from having the views in this example that I'm giving about leads, marketing qualified leads, and sales qualified leads, and obviously the turnaround into our sales, today we can have a view of that versus why our pipeline's not necessarily as strong in each level of the process. And again, I think that it's relevant always to talk about, again, very clear and achievable objectives. And I know that we can talk about SMART objectives a lot, but this is something that needs to be provided for an owner-managed company. Please don't try to place unreachable objectives. Objectives will be as sense and logic based on the strategic plan that has been in place, and actually to see if those objectives are aligned from area to area, from department to department. So I think this is a very important view. And in order to finalize my presentation, let me go into long-term perspective. Owner-managed companies should maintain a long-term perspective always. I mean, always. If there's going to be someone in the organization that's always looking ahead 1, 2, 3 years in advance, should be the owner, and should be, and if it's a family-owned company, it should be the family and the key leaders. And I'm placing here, while short-term goals are important, it is essential to balance them with focus on sustainable growth, and sustainable growth can only be seen on a long term, and profitability. So I think that long-term perspective, again, as I said probably half an hour ago, it depends on the market, it depends on the industry, and clearly it will depend on where the company is within its life cycle. But I think that the long-term perspective is a basic concept that needs to be in every owner's mind. So I think if these principles that I just showed make an impact in small and mid-sized companies that are owned and managed by one family member, or managed in a way by more people, please always try to have that long-term perspective. And to finalize, remember that this is a collaborative approach can lead to a better decision making, increase stakeholder buy-in from everyone within your organization, and to have a successful implementation of the strategy. So thank you guys. Thank you, Abdul. Thank you for the time. So I think I just run with 50 minutes. Sorry for that. So let's see if we can have some 8 or 9 minutes regarding questions, sir.
Thank you, Renan, for excellent presentation and very uh, great insights for owner-managed companies. So one question here is a very obvious question, especially the new business owners, maybe 5, 10 years. So how to set the customer expectations? You said one of the capability is to manage customer expectations and then customer relationships. So how does that? If the what is the best way to define customer expectations and how to manage them? Okay, is that because usually what happens is out of curiosity or whatever, so you take up the projects and you don't meet or exceed the expectations of the customer for whatever reason. Maybe the customer is correct or wrong, whatever. So how does that? What is there any process to do
I
that?
think yes. I think great question, Abdul. I think first that we need to be very clear of what. Again, I'll go with the sales pitch in a very simple way. Let's just see that our sales pitch is clear enough for the customer and also clear enough for the rest of the organization. The sales pitch should be as clear of, no, of course, not only the price and not only the capabilities of our product or our service, but what quality means for the customer. And if the quality is the customer is buying into that quality, well, I'll say that is what needs to be expected. Let me use an example for one of the biggest brands on retail businesses, on restaurants. I'll use the McDonald's brand. It's a global brand. I think it's very simple to say if someone wants a product from that company, they know what to expect because it's going to be usually a low price product in any market. So as long as the quality is standardized and based on the expectation of the customer, I think that there's a clear opportunity within the quality control and the vision of that company compared to what the customers are expecting, that we're not going to be delivering products that are going to be above 20, 30 US dollars per purchase. Those are purchases that are usually somewhere between $5 and $10. So as long as we have that as a clear line. Now, customer expectations for higher tier products. Let's use higher tier products, like we can talk about car brands. What does the customer expect? So the customer expectation needs to happen from how the commercial teams, whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, are segmenting their customers, whether by size, whether by transaction potential, but also by industry trends. So, Abdul, I believe that that's something that will be of big value to any given company, to any leader on a family-owned, owner-based managed company. But the customer view is after you're doing a sale or one thing is to see how the customer likes the transactional process. Was it a good transactional process? But now, if it's a project and the customer is going to have my team, the what he bought and the team embedded into his company for a year, let's see if that's exactly what he expected. Not the year, that the year can be there. The communication, the clarity, the impact that team is having within the culture of my company. And the other one is at the end of every transaction, I'll use the word of depending on the business, we have to be very humble to go and ask the customer if they liked or they disliked the service. So again, this I think this is not necessarily one topic. There's going to be more than one topic that needs to be in place. Again, it will depend on the size of the company, also on the product line that we're serving or the service that we're serving. But we have to be very open always to have to have the input of that perspective, sir.
So great answer, great answer. So I just see so many points. So you have a very sequential or sequence of steps, like start from the vision, then you do the review of the strategy, there's involve all the stakeholders. It's a very systematic way how to handle it. Okay. So usually when you engage any owner managed companies, so how long it will take?
Oh, I
Renan?
think for a mid-sized company, I'll say for an owner-based company, usually it should take in from 1 month. If it's a small operation, usually it will take maximum 2.5 months. With the correct questions, with the open communication from the customer, from I would say from the owner and from the family, you can have a great assessment in less than, I would say, 60 days.
Mhm.
Of course, without going drilling down into every aspect. But again, and usually that starts with having very clear communication with the owner and with the family, and that usually has an impact in, I will say, in the candor process of any given communication. So that will always open the door for having, I'll say, with the rest of the leaders in that organization, to have a very clear and objective view of any given assessment, whether you're looking at the commercial area, whether it's sales, marketing, not only looking at data of what they have done well, also trying to have a sense what has not necessarily been well implemented or well thought upon. Always being very open about how strategy is being sensed by the owner and by the employees. Have they done it the right way? Have they done it in some areas it has worked, in some areas it has not? And always having that track of the financial impact of what is being done well and what has room for improvement. So I think that if we put a time frame between 2 and 3 months, but nothing above that, should we have a very clear view of that, Abdul.
Perfect, perfect. Is that just a possibility of a question? Is that something can be done remotely, or is that
Yes,
mandatory?
yes, Abdul. With the type of resources that we have today, and again, always trying to maintain the efficiency of the investment and ROI from the customer perspective. Yes, most of the activities can be done remotely. Always, if there's a need for a due diligence process that needs to be in place in a specific geography or market, yes, I'm sure that there has to be an opportunity to have the one-on-one, face-to-face meetings. But yes, usually, Abdul, there will be an impact, a positive impact with the opportunity of doing most of the activities on a virtual basis.
Perfect. I think those are the questions. So if there is any questions from the participants, we will be happy to post it to Renan and then get the answers.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so due to the time constraint, so thank you, Renan, for joining so early from your location. Okay, so it was very insightful, a very insightful session indeed, and also we talk more about the approach as we go on, and then we connect to more customers to solve the
Great.
problem. Hopefully,
Thank
yeah.
you, Abdul. You have a great day for you and for this great event that's bringing a lot of information and insights for a big chunk of companies and a big chunk of executives. And I know that you're touching also a lot of entrepreneurs. So glad to be part of the project. Have a beautiful
Thank
day,
you.
everyone.
Okay, thank you, Renan.
Bye-bye.
Have a great time. Thank you very much.